Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I'm a 25-year-old woman. I graduated from law school, and my dad offered me a post in his firm. My dad is a successful lawyer, and his firm is one of the most famous firms in the city. I was a bit hesitant to work in my dad's firm as it would put me under pressure, but my dad had decided, and there were no such issues with joining dad's firm, so I agreed with him. We used to go to the office together. My dad would get me involved in certain cases to just train me in a way, and then we would come back together. Only a couple of months had passed when our firm hired a fresh graduate. He was a handsome young man who was really excited about his job, as becoming a lawyer was his goal. His cheerful and decent nature instantly caught my attention. I did not try to talk to him or build a connection, as it was my dad's office and I felt like being seen all the time. As the whole office knew that I was the boss's daughter, my every move was observed and also talked about sometimes. A couple of weeks went by, and my dad assigned me a case and told me that I could choose an assistant for the case. I, without a second thought, chose that newly hired lawyer and started working on the case. We got a lot of time to interact and get to know each other, which brought us closer. We quickly became friends, and the case became fun, to be honest. We had prepared well and won the case, which made Dad extremely happy. As our case had been closed, we would get very less time to spend together. We were texting one evening when we decided to hang out after the office, and that was when we started dating. We would see each other after the office, or he would sometimes come over to stay in my apartment. 3 years later, one fine evening, I told him that I wanted to marry him as I believed I could not imagine my life without him. He told me that he was not up to my status and my dad would never approve of our marriage. Just to mention that my dad had no idea that we were dating and the people in the office knew we were great friends and nothing else. I told him that I would take a stand and that Dad would just get upset for some time. He told me that if I wanted to get married to him, I had to talk to my dad separately and then he would see him. I agreed and told my dad that there was something important to talk about and I would see him the following weekend. I went to my dad's place and told him that I wanted to get married, to which he was surprised and asked who it was, as I was not even dating. I told him that it was that junior lawyer and also that we had been dating for 3 years. My dad was furious and told me that it was impossible. He told me to leave and also that I should mend my choices. I tried to talk to my dad about it, but he was not ready to listen. I went to his office and told him that I could marry the person of my choice as it was my life and he had no right to pass the orders. I also told him that if he did not approve of our marriage, I would get married to him on my own and would not even invite him. My dad told me that he would kick my boyfriend out of the office and would deprive me of everything. I was shocked to hear that and left his office immediately. I had decided to make the decision for myself and not involve my dad at all. We started preparing for the wedding, and everything was finalized when I sent an invitation to my dad. The next day, when we went to the office, my boyfriend was told that he was fired and could leave. I stormed into my dad's office and told him that no matter what he did, I would get married to him. And then he would be portrayed as an evil dad because not only he was opposing his daughter, but was also trying to bring the couple to the roads. I was worried for my boyfriend, but our decision to get married could not be altered. We're getting married next weekend, and my dad had threatened to kidnap my boyfriend. I had no other option left except to take the matter to the police, as I had filed a complaint against my dad. He has been calling me, but I am not responding. I understand he has done everything for me since I was a kid, and my mom passed away, but he has no right to control my life. AITA? I attended my dad's call, and he told me that he would support me with my decision, and I could take my complaint back, as he did not want everyone to know that issues were going on between us. I agreed, and my dad instantly transferred a hefty amount of money to my account, saying that I could buy whatever I liked as it was my big day. I could not believe that my dad had changed overnight. He also attended our wedding, and as promised, he seemed absolutely fine and behaved normally throughout the event. I was glad that he had, at last, understood me. My dad called my husband a week later and told him that he could rejoin his firm. I was the happiest on earth, as my dad had no issues with us now. A month passed, and my dad invited us to dinner at his place. We had a great time with him, and dinner was scrumptious. My dad surprised us with a honeymoon package to my favorite destination. I was over the moon and could not believe it was actually happening. So glad to see my dad happy with my decisions after all, that bitterness between us. We left for our honeymoon a week later, and it felt like a dream. The destination, the weather, and we were totally amazing together. We were having a great time together and had planned to go to a club one evening. As we went there, the party was ecstatic, and we enjoyed it so much. We danced like there was no tomorrow, and I drank so much that my husband had to carry me to our suite. When I woke up the next day, my husband was not in bed, so I went to look for him in the bathroom. The bathroom was empty, and he was not on the balcony as well. I noticed that his stuff was also missing, and then a note caught my eye. The note read that he had already left and that I did not need to look for him as he had realized he was not the one for me, and I deserved better. I could not believe my eyes. I booked a ticket right away and flew back. I went to my dad and told him that I knew he was involved because he never wanted to see us together. My dad told me that I had lost my mind and he had nothing to do with my missing husband. I went to my husband's parents' house and found out that they had shifted just a week ago. This made it clear that my husband had gone by his own will. I was devastated and could not think of anything. My husband had blocked me from his social media, and his phone was also not responding. I asked my dad if he could help me find him, to which he replied that he already doubted him, and now, when he's run away, I should not give a shit about him. I guess he's right, but I'm still waiting for my husband to at least call me and confront me with his decision. I'm here with an update, guys, and that too 3 years later. It was very difficult for me to cope with the situation and move on with my regular life, but I did. That fine morning, I was in my dad's office studying a case with him. I asked about a detail concerning our client, and he told me that I could find that in his emails. He handed over his phone and got busy on his laptop. As I was going through the emails, a message popped up saying, "Thank you for the cash, sir." To my shock, it was my husband, and I dared not open the chat as my dad would know I had seen his text. I tried my best not to react and put the phone back. I told my dad later that day that I wanted to see him after the office just to have tea with him. He was glad to know and told me that I could come over any time I liked. I went to him and we had tea together, and then I asked him if I could take a selfie of us on his phone. I took his phone, took a few selfies, and then, while looking at those photos, I went to his chats and read the whole conversation. I came to know that they had been in contact since my husband had vanished, and most of the conversation was about money. I left my dad's place immediately. I had to confront my dad as I had the right to know what was going on. I went to my dad's office and confronted him, asking him why he was still in contact with my husband and why I was not aware of it. He told me that my husband had been blackmailing him and asking for money, which was ridiculous, as a person as powerful as my dad could never be exploited. I took my husband's number and left my dad's office. I called my husband and told him that I already knew he was taking money from my dad, and I wanted to know why it was so. He told me that he was just taking help from my dad, to which I yelled at him and told him that I could drag him to the court. He told me that my dad had conspired with him and had forced him to leave me for money. I called my dad after that and told him that he was never going to see me again. I have applied for jobs in another state and will be leaving as soon as I land one. NTA. I feel sorry for OP as she had stood strong against her dad for someone who preferred money over her and ran away like a coward. OP could have easily judged him through his behavior as he was always on the back step. He did not even want to see OP's dad before her dad had approved their marriage. OP's decision of ditching both of them and leaving is applaudable. NTA. There are two a-holes in the story, and we know who they are. OP's dad is such a narcissist and could not see his own daughter happy. He won by breaking them up, but did not realize that he had destroyed his daughter's married life. As OP's dad had broken her trust, how would she ever trust anyone else? And that cheap husband never deserved OP. Glad that he has already gone.
Next story.
I'm a 28-year-old female, and I'm roommates with my brother Cole, who's 26, and his girlfriend Grace, who's also 26. Cole and I split rent, and Grace lives here rent-free and job-free, if that's relevant. Due to past trauma, I'm very uncomfortable with people being in my room, especially without my permission. Over the last few years, I've been trying to work on this and have gotten to the point where I'm more comfortable with people coming into my room. All I ask is that they have my permission. Both Cole and Grace know this about me. Cole has no problem with knocking and has tried to convince Grace to do it as well, but Grace is always trying to push this boundary. Grace constantly just walks in or goes into my room to borrow my hair supplies or nail polish while I'm not there. If she really needed something from my room while I'm out, she could just text or call to ask me if she can go in there. Whenever I have a friend over in my room or Cole to hang out with, she deems that since someone else is in there with me, she is also allowed in too, and just opens the door to come in. Whenever she does this, she doesn't even hang out with us or my friends, just sits near and browses her phone. I have asked her several times to please just ask or knock before she goes into my room and reminded her of my reasons, but she constantly ignores me. Yesterday, I went shopping with Cole, and when we came back home, Grace was smiling and giggling a lot. Cole asked her what she's been up to, and she said that she's just been chilling around before giggling some more. When I went to my room, I saw that some of my figurines had been moved around the room. One was even on top of a painting above my desk that she definitely would have had to climb on to put it up there. I know this because I had to climb on top of my desk to reach it. I went back into the living room and Grace asked if I liked her prank. I told her that I did not and really don't appreciate that she keeps going into my room without my permission and that I'll be getting a lock for my door. She told me I was overreacting to having a few figurines moved around and that it was harmless. I told her it isn't about the figurines, it was about going into my room without my permission, and I am not comfortable with her being in my room anymore. She just rolled her eyes and said, "Whatever." Currently, Grace won't talk to me, and Cole said that he thinks it is reasonable for me to get a lock on my door, but he might be biased. I've told my friends about it, and some agree with me, but a few think that I should let it go and not unnecessarily escalate everything by buying a lock. AITA? NTA. Buy the lock. Your brother is supportive of you, and honestly, this will de-escalate any future problems because you won't have to constantly argue about her going into your room. If she complains about the lock, behave in much the same way that she has to you. Whatever. Don't engage further than that. She sounds pretty spoiled and unaware of her own actions and how they affect other people. Hopefully, she'll grow up, but if not, it might be time for her to move out. Hopefully, your brother will realize this soon. NTA. Get a lock ASAP for your room. And honestly, if I was your brother, I would have blown up at her for her blatant disrespect of family. They want y'all to walk around in eggshells while she doesn't contribute anything but pussy and a bad attitude.
Next story.
So I know how that sounds, but hear me out. My sister lived with my aunt for 6 years. When my aunt died 2 years ago, she left the house to my mother instead of my sister. Because my sister's never been able to hold a job down and has been evicted 3 times for failure to pay, my mom told her that she could continue living in the house, but that she would have to pay the taxes and the homeowner's insurance. That's about $190 a month, plus the electric bill. About midway through last year, she's yet to pay anything during the month, and came to find out that she'd never put the electric bill in her name and had rang up almost $3,000 on my dead aunt's account. So, having had enough, my mother gave her 30 days to be out last July. When November rolled around and she still hadn't left me and my mother went down there. She admitted that she had never told her boyfriend that they were being kicked out and that they hadn't even looked for it anywhere to go. Around this time, I offered to buy the house for my mother and that I would just start the process to evict them through the courts. My mother volunteered to just give me the house so I could raise my family in it. As it's about 3 times bigger than my current home, it's 3,600 square feet. Well, last month I filed the unlawful detainer. 2 weeks ago we had court, and she cried and cried in front of the judge, who ultimately told her that I had the deed and she had no lease, and upon seeing all the bills my mother has had to pay to keep the house from being seized, told her to get out within 10 days. Well, yesterday was day 10, and they still haven't packed a single thing, so I filed to have the sheriff's department remove her by force. The department posted on her door that if she wasn't out within 72 hours, that she would be charged with trespassing. She and her boyfriend had been texting me almost non-stop, telling me I need to resend it because they're going to be homeless, and how could I do this to my family? I don't think I'm in the wrong. They've had a year to figure this out. My mother had to pay their light bill for almost a year because they wouldn't let her just turn the power off because of COVID. I look at it that every decision she's made in her 35 years of life has led her to this. So, am I wrong? And before people start mentioning it, I don't care if I don't have a relationship with her after this. Things have always been strained between us anyway. The sheriff's department went in to remove her. Her boyfriend was arrested for his warrants. The damages are mostly years of neglect and carelessness, not malicious as far as I can tell. The neighbors were thrilled to see her removed. Apparently they fought all night long. They did put a barricade on the basement and back doors that destroyed the door frames, though. NTA, block her number and get on with your life. The only thing you and your mom are responsible for is keeping her from being homeless for the last couple of years, while she did nothing to ensure her own situation. You are doing the right thing. NTA, she's been using your family for years, and it's shocked that it's no longer being allowed. They are both adults and should have figured something out, but she likely thought that it would never actually happen. Stay strong and on course.